Next. Now I want to just talk about his work in general. First of all, I want to mention that throughout his life, if you take all the work that he created, there are only 160 works. Only 160 works. Of these 160, some there are only single casts. Some there are two casts of them. Others there are 20 of the same one. So if we sort of take an average of 10 for every one, then in totality, all the sculptures that exist by Van Wouw, and here I would say Italian casts plus local casts, then there are not more than 1,600 Van Wouws in existence. That's the totality that we're dealing with, and that's one of the reasons why Van Wouw's works are so very valuable today. Because you only have the chance of about 1,600 chances to own a Van Wouw. And of that 1,600, I would say only 600 of them are good castings. The other 1,000 are poor castings, and I'll explain that later on. One of the important things about Van Wouw's work is the meticulous finish that one finds on his work. If you look at a sculpture like this miner with a hammer drill, if you look at that sculpture, I mean, it's just amazing the quality of the finish that you see over there. The patina of the body in contrast with the ground on which he's working over there. It's just wonderful to look at it. And it's almost, when you look at the sculpture, it's almost as if it's got a deep shine that penetrates deep into the sculpture. And that's what a real good Van Wouw should look like. So that is one of the very important things about his sculpture, is the meticulous finish that one finds. And I'm going to come back to that again. Van Wouw worked in many materials. There are sculptures that he made in wood, very few. There are sculptures that he made in marble, 3 of them. There are sculptures that he produced in marble light. Now, people always say to me, what is marble light? During the First World War and also during the Second World War, bronze was unobtainable. So what they did is he made a mixture of marble powder, and he made a paste, and it's mixed with glue, marble powder and glue, and he cast his sculptures with that. And there are a number of these that exist, especially Nooitjie of the Onneveld. There's one of, on many of his busts of the Boer leaders during the First World War, they are cast in marble light. So when you see one of those, you mustn't say, oh no, it's not Van Wouw, he didn't cast in that, he did use that method also. Now, when I classify Van Wouw's, I talk of 4 classifications. There are those that are very rare, and naturally the auction world will make those the ones that are the most expensive. Unfortunately, most of them are in museums, so you're probably never going to see any of them.
What a pity.
It's such a pity, yes. But those are the ones that I would say 10 million rands is still a very reasonable price for something like that. If we pay in the world today 290 million rands for a 290 million pounds for a Van Gogh, then, you know, a very unique Van Wouw, of which there's only one, I should be able to reach 10 million rands easily. And there are a number of them. That bust of young Hendrik Hofmeyr is the only one of its kind. That figure of staying in a chair, which was to be the counter figure for Kruger in exile. He wanted one of staying in a chair and Kruger in a chair. So he made that one of staying in a chair. There's only one. No other. There's no plaster to have extra castings made. They were destroyed. So that it's only that one that exists. And that one of Lord Buxton it's at present in the descendants, in the collection of the descendants of Lord Buxton in England. It's only that one that exists. Then this one of Jan Silvier, Van Wouw's father-in-law, is the only one that exists. It's in the National Cultural History Museum. It's the only one. The one of Jan van Riebeck, they only, no, that's the only one. There's only one of them also. He made this for South Africa House. It should have been on the gable in front of South Africa House, Jan van Riebeck, but then there was a lot of political wangling, and Kurt Steenberg got the design, and they changed it to Bartholomew Dias, and they discarded Van Wouw's idea, and Van Wouw never had any idea to go further with this, and he just had a bronze casting. That one bronze casting made of the plaster cast. He smashed the plaster cast, so it's the only one that exists. And then the baby in the chair, there are only two of them. There's one in the William Humphreys Museum, and there's one in the collection of the family in Holland. And everybody's trying to buy it from the family, and the family doesn't want to sell it. So, you know, it's one of those very, very rare sculptures. So there are these that are very rare and unique. That they are the ones that they are only one of a kind. And there are quite a lot of them. There must be about 10 or 12 of these works. Next. Then I talk of those that are rare and complex. Those that are rare and complex. And they should fetch the same price as those very rare ones because of the complexity of these sculptures. Something like this original one of the hunter drinking. It's a very complex sculpture to make because there are very many loose parts that were cast separately and then attached to the sculpture. And at the moment I only know of 4 of them that exist. There are only 4 of them. There's one in the Reserve Bank collection, there's one in the Rupert collection, and then there's 2 in private collections. But there are only 4 of them. So that they are very rare and they're very complex. The same with the hammer worker, this guy. There must be about 6 of them original. And when I talk of I'm speaking of Italian castings, very important castings. So they're very, very expensive also, and they're complex because they were cast in many pieces. It's a complex piece, and again, I think if somebody buys one of those and pays 2 million rands, it's a bargain. The real price should be 10 million easily. You can't get, I mean, if there are only 6 of them in the world, it's really very rare. And then this one, this is the only one of its kind. It's a maquette for a statue of General de la Rey that he made. Also a complex sculpture, also very rare. There's only one of them. And then you get these that are reasonably rare. For instance, and then when I talk of reasonably rare, I mean only the very good castings, the Italian castings. Those are reasonably rare. There are many of them. Of the Noinki of the Ornefeld, there must be about 40 of them in total. There's 40 of them, but of the 40, I think only 15 are actual castings. The others are all posthumous castings, later castings, because she was very popular. People wanted her. So you find her all over the place. And the very rare ones are the ones that are the expensive ones. The same with the Slechternis. There must be easily 25 of them in total. Of the big Slechternis. You get the small Slechternis and the big Slechternis. Of the big Slechternis, there must be about 25 of them. And of those 25, I would say about 10 of them are Italian castings. And again, they are very rare and they pay enormous prices for them. Recently you sold one in the Cape. I went and had a look at it. It wasn't marked, but when I saw it and I looked at it, I immediately knew it was an Italian casting. And it sold for 1 million rands. That's the type of thing that we're getting with with a good casting like that. And then Kruger in exile, the one standing over there is a beautiful casting. It's an Assini casting, but terribly neglected. It's a sort of sculpture that can fetch 800,000, even to as high as R1 million, if the patina hadn't been neglected like that. With a patina like that, 600,000. That's the most. So, you know, the way it is being treated is also important. But yeah, then I have the fourth category of the ones that are not so rare. And mostly, these are mostly busts. There must be about 100 De La Reyes. And the Vets are less, and the Louis Botha's, I think there are only 4 Louis Botha's. But the Louis Botha wasn't very popular amongst the Afrikaners, so they didn't make many. But De La Rey and the Vet was very popular, so they made many of them. So there are many of them. So they're not so rare. They don't fetch very high prices also. And I think that's logical. Next one. Now I want to talk about the most important thing, and that is how to identify a good Van Wouw casting. And there are certain fixed rules. The first important thing is to look at the style of the artist. The other day somebody sent me there was a sale in Sandton where they were selling a rugby player. And they said it's Van Wouw, signed Van Wouw, and it's Van Wouw. And the provenance says it's Van Wouw because the old man got it from Van Wouw because he did Van Wouw's garden. But anybody that has any idea of Van Wouw's style will know that it's absolutely not a Van Wouw. Somebody had forged Van Wouw's signature on it. They engraved Van Wouw's signature on it. It's not Van Wouw. Van Wouw never made a rugby player. There's no photograph of a rugby player from but these people are, they're probably going to get a big price for it because they've convinced the people that they do have all the documentation. That's nonsense. Documentation can be forged also. Documentation must be authentic. And that's the second important thing, is provenance. Style is very important. You must be able to recognize the style of the artist. If it's a strange work, I mean, if it's a common work like that, you know it's a Van Wouw, so you don't have to go to the style of the artist. But I think the time is coming near that younger artists will copy Van Wouw and sell it as a Van Wouw. And then we must be very careful because they're doing it with Irma Stern, or they're doing it with Maggie Loubser, and they're doing it with Pierneef at the moment. And Van Wouw is the next. So we must be very careful of that. So style still remains a very important thing because that is something that nobody can copy. Nobody can copy the style of the artist. So that's the one very important thing. The second one is provenance. For instance, if you have sales documents, original sales documents, where Dr. Kestel says, ek het hierdie beeldjie van die nooitjie van die Onderveld verkoop aan so en so en so. If you've got that document, that is very important that you have that document. It goes with the sculpture. Very often, many of these sculptures, I've just seen a nooitjie of the Onderveld where there's a silver plate on the base of the thing, which says that this was given to President Steyn by the women of South Africa. That is a document of provenance. In other words, that's important. That must be with the thing. Old photographs, those are very important also. And it's very important we know all the works that Van Wouw made by photographs. Because, you know, Van Wouw was a very meticulous artist, not only in the finish of his works, but also in the recording of his work. Whenever he made a new work, he would put he'd put some of his latest works in the background. So he would stand making a new work over there, and in the background you would see all the new works that he'd made that year. So those photographs are so important. And if a work doesn't appear on any of those photographs that he made, then it's a problem. It isn't a Van Wouw. Now I've seen so many of these things that people come up, they get somebody to make the Shangaan a much bigger head than he is, because they know there is an existing one of the Basotho Witness, a bigger head. So they make the Shangaan's head bigger, and then they think there's somebody that will fall for it because there's no record of it anywhere in his works. There's no photographic record, so you can't go by that.